Hey. Welcome to Culture.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Ilya, where are we?
We are in Culture, in the center of Beijing, in the middle of the Beijing hutongs. Culture is a language school, a Chinese language school, and at the same time a Chinese cultural center. So basically what we used to do before Corona, we organized different events, lectures, Chinese film screenings, and Chinese language classes.
Right.
That a big part of them is also, the classes are very practical. So we mostly teach people around different topics that can help their daily life, and as well for the HSK exam. Nowadays, most of our classes are online because that's where Corona has brought us. So now we're doing kind of a bit of a similar thing where we teach in groups people from all around the world in an online live setting.
Why Hutong?
So Hutong, for me, this is kind of the historic center of Beijing, of the capital of China. And if you look up until 50, 60 years ago, like this is what Beijing used to be. And it still preserved a lot of that feeling, a lot of that culture. I also really like the feeling that it's still low rises. There's a lot of like historical places. There's a lot of old Beijingers who live here. So when you are based kind of in this environment, you don't feel kind of this new modern side of Beijing. You're still connected kind of to the roots of the capital. You can see kind of the old people still living their lives like they used to. You know, have little markets or people growing their pigeons, and that's a big part of the experience of like living here or studying here or being in this area is kind of absorbing and being kind of part of this historical part of the city.
Do you know your neighbors?
I used to know all of them. It's a bit sad, but a few of them actually passed away since we moved here.
Okay.
Old Beijingers. So.
Now, when you have offline classes, do you have sessions with your students where you go out and talk to the locals here?
So we have a part of our course which is called Survival Chinese.
Okay.
So when we do it here, when we do it offline, we have like a few different modules where we study in the classroom and then we go out. So there is one, for example, when we teach people how to shop and bargain, and then we go to like local vegetable markets, and we talk to the people and they practice their Chinese. And we have another module where it's ordering food in a restaurant, and then also we go like to local Hutong restaurant, and then we go and we talk to the people on the roads, and we also go to the restaurant and students are trying to order food. So it's kind of, we're trying to build it in kind of in the experience.
So you have had this business for what, 10 years now?
Yeah, a bit over 10 years.
So for 10 years, what was the most surprising student that you've had here that came with zero Chinese, and now you see that person doing what with regard to the Chinese language?
So I can give you maybe two examples that I remember. One is a Dutch lady. She came here with her husband. So he came for a job. She wasn't sure what to do during her time. She decided to see if she can learn some Chinese. She loved it. She went from nothing to, like, let's say, if you're familiar with HSK to HSK 5, then they moved to Suzhou and she's managing a factory, completely in Chinese.
Right.
Yeah. So like going from nothing to, I don't know, like, this big management job that she's working with, her.
Do you speak Chinese to her right now?
So she's in Suzhou.
Did you hear her Chinese?
I heard her Chinese, yeah.
Okay, and how is it?
Let's say it's very good for what she's doing. I think now her vocabulary is very much based on her work, which happens to a lot of people, but no, her Chinese is great. We had some journalists who came here with no Chinese, and they would work only using English with a translator, and now they can do their interviews in Chinese. So a lot of interesting stories. A good friend of mine, actually, he came here with no Chinese, and he started a real estate business after studying with us. So a lot of cool.
You must be
stories.
proud.
Oh, obviously. The majority of people, they just want to get by. That's the reason why they learn Chinese. But I always love it when somebody is really invested, and you can see this kind of progress from nothing to, like having amazing Chinese and doing very cool stuff with it.
So in theory, you must be killing now. This is the best time for online classes. True or false?
True.
Okay. So if you compare July of 2020 to July to 2019, what's the rise look like? What's the curve look like?
I would say it's comparable. It's not better or it's worse, because don't forget that in February we started with the online from zero. But I'm for me it's very good because imagine we built a completely almost new business
Right.
from nothing in 4 or 5 months that at the moment is bringing just as much as what we were doing before with all of our offline stuff. I'll tell you about how many students. We have about 100 students right now studying with us.
And in 2019, how many students did you have?
So it was about the same at this point last year.
Has there been more students at this point anywhere or any time in the past 10 years?
Let's say June was one of our best months ever.
Ever?
Yeah, last month.
Okay. And how many are them returnees?
So I would say about 30-40% are people who've continued studying with us from offline to online, or who joined us, who studied with us before, and about 60-70 are completely new students.
So when offline classes will resume, what do you think will be the proportion of the online to offline classes?
So my plan is to grow mostly our online. Going forward, online will be the majority of our business. And this is where we're now investing all our energy and all our resources. It's great. I didn't know it myself before Corona happened, because I haven't taken online classes myself, but now that I've been also taking classes together with our teachers, I was like, you know, it's actually great. I'm studying from home. If I'm a little bit tired, I can turn off my camera, go bring a coffee, kind of just listen to other people. I watch the recording afterwards, because let's say I wasn't very focused, I can watch that. I participate as much as I want, but I still have a feeling I'm together with other people because we do mostly group classes. So you have like a small group of people, so you still have that community, but without having to go anywhere.
Did you wish that you could have started earlier?
No.
Now that you know everything about online classes?
No, because I don't like thinking that way.
Let's go back to when you and why you started this all. You are originally from St. Petersburg, Russia. From St. Petersburg, at the age of 8, you moved to Israel, Jerusalem. And then 10 years ago or 12 years ago, in 2009, right, you moved to China. Why did you start studying Chinese in Israel, and why did you move to China and began to teach here Chinese to foreigners? What was the process like, and what was the thought process like behind those actions?
So I actually started learning Chinese completely by accident.
Right.
I was in university, I didn't like one of my 2 majors, and I wanted to switch to a different major. And I was looking for something that would feel more practical and challenging. And I saw people in the library every day sitting and writing characters. And I thought, okay, you know what? Learning a new language that is a difficult language, or considered a difficult language, will give me something that I can actually use in the world. You know, it's like something that it's tangible. Because a lot of, for me it was, I felt a lot of university studies, it's very theoretical. You cannot really put it into practice. So I started learning Chinese in university. I did kind of a bachelor's degree in Chinese studies. And during my studies, I came first to China just for a visit to see what it's like, because I didn't know anything besides what I was learning in university. And I came here for a summer, for a couple of months, and I completely fell in love. And I was like, okay, I'm so fascinated by this place, and the culture, and the language, and the landscapes, and both, like, I was in Shanghai, and, like, you know, the skyscrapers, and then, you know, the rice fields. And I was like, okay, as soon as I'm done with my studies, I'm going to move to China. But then I arrived here, and I couldn't speak a word, because I never spoke to anyone. There are no Chinese in Israel at the time. Yeah, but maybe I could
Especially
translate.
coming and actually speaking Beijing-hua, right?
Yeah. Or even worse, yeah, even worse, I was in Shanghai and they speak, you know, sometimes they switch to their own language with Shanghai Hua, and I was like,
Exactly.
what is
Where
that?
am I?
Yeah,
what did I study in the past 4 years?
Exactly. My point was, okay, I come here and I want to study more, and because I didn't feel I had enough. So I did 3 more semesters in China, in one small university in Beijing, in Donghua University in Shanghai, and in Tsingtao University in Tsingtao. And all universities are considered quite good universities, but here, when I was studying, the classes were very much the teacher is speaking and you're taking notes. Even the spoken Chinese class, what it actually meant is that you have a book that is called Spoken Chinese.
Yeah, but none of it actually
But there wasn't much
resounded in the class, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it was kind of, okay, memorize, you know, this thing, and in your spoken Chinese class, say what you've memorized. But there wasn't much actual interaction. And for me, this is not what language teaching is all about. For me, teaching like learning a language is one, you learn kind of stuff that helps you in your everyday life or helps you, let's say, in your job. So let's say you are now already doing business, so learn things that have to do with your business. And if you just moved to China, you need to learn how to talk to your neighbor or buy things in a shop. And you need to have a lot of practice in class, you need to speak a lot. And it needs to kind of build up those speaking abilities, because that's what most people want to do. And I didn't really get it, not in my studies in Israel and not in my studies here in China. So that was kind of my main motivation of like, okay, you know what? I already came with a background as a teacher and as a student of language, and I was like, okay, let me try to do something a little bit different.
How many competitors did you have here? You're like sweeping. This is like this is a four-peat. But 2019, what happened? Or they didn't give out the award because of the coronavirus?
No, we didn't get that one.
Oh, so you're like, finally. But it's one thing to come here, to experience life, to actually study a little bit of Chinese, and completely another thing to start a business. Tell me about the process of beginning a business in China, especially in the field of education. And tell me what your first 5 years looked like, especially the difficulties that you faced.
I was lucky to be young and stupid enough to not think too much when I was starting the business. So I didn't really...
Lesson number one, be young and stupid. And don't think too much.
Because when you're young and stupid, you're like, okay, I'm starting a business, right? That's it. And then you just find out what are the process, how do you register. And at the time, my Chinese friend was helping me. We looked online. We literally were just looking online. Okay, I want to start. Where do I go? So, we went to the Dongcheng Bureau of Commerce, because this is where you need to go to register a business. And we literally went there, and I was like, I want to start a business.
Nobody goes there.
I went there, and I was like, so what do I need to do?
Okay.
And I think at the time, even now, like foreigners don't actually go to those places.
Exactly. They hire an agent.
They hire an agent, but I didn't have a lot of money. I wanted to save a little bit, and I was thinking, oh, what's the problem? I'll just go and I'll do it myself. So they were extremely nice. Like I was getting a lot of help in Beijing from government officials all along the way. They were kind of guiding me, okay, so, giving me this long list of things that I need to do, and kind of, first I don't remember, you need to come up with a name, you need to open a Chinese, you need to open a bank account, at the time you had to transfer money from abroad into a Chinese bank account.
Because you actually registered a WUFI.
I registered a WUFI,
right.
Yeah. Which is like a foreign-owned...
personally or from a company? Outside of China?
No, just... Like it's a Chinese kind of company in a way. It's a Chinese-based company. It's not
on your name.
On my name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You finished with the registration, and then you actually started the business.
I was doing it at the same time.
Right. You already had students.
I had this space, because you need to have a space to register a business on.
This space.
This space.
Okay.
Part of the registration, you need to have the space, but the registration is not over then. So it's still going on. Right. You're registering, but I already have the space. I'm paying rent. And I asked them at the Bureau of Commerce, what happens if I already start? And they're like, yeah, of course. As long as you're in the process of registration, nobody would care. And that's 2009. Yeah, I moved to China early 2008. And with the business, I've started already late 2009, started the process of registration. So early 2010, we started having our first classes here.
What's your favorite restaurant here?
I have a lot of favorite restaurants here.
What is the one that you go to and you know what you order and the owner knows you?
So there's one I've recently been going to. It's a little kind of barbecue place, 5-minute walk like north from here. Last time I went there, I once criticized them that their cucumber dish that I really like wasn't fresh enough. And since I've done it, every time, like the very old father of the owner, he shouts from behind and he is like, the cucumbers are fresh today.
So you started 10 years ago. You had 1 or 2 or 3, 5 students, right? But you already had the cost of a rent, at least, it's 10 years past, but probably it was 50 or 70% less than what the cost is right now. But nevertheless, you had a lot of cost. So how long was it, did it take you for you to get your money back, to get the ROI back?
Honestly, it was a bit of, it was like a roller coaster. We had periods when, already quite early on, we were doing quite well, but then I wouldn't be very careful with my costs and I would maybe hire too many people, and then there wasn't enough income coming in, and then it failed again. So basically, I had a lot of struggle to survive. So I would be working part-time outside of the school, or even in the school I would maybe teach some classes, or I would organize some events myself where I'm the host of the event and whatever the
So you would
come.
hustle to get the money from outside as well, right?
I would
and then
hustle.
put it back in your business.
And I would put everything into the
Exactly.
business. I would, you know, I would pay as, I wouldn't take any money from myself. My parents helped me for the first couple of years when it was really bad. Obviously, you know,
they stuck with you.
Yeah, and at some point they said, okay, you know, you're on your own. But at the beginning, like, they really wanted to support me, and obviously it was very embarrassing, you know, to talk to your parents and say, hey, you know what, my rent is coming and I'm not sure I have enough. Do you mind helping me out?
But they believed in your business.
They believed in me. It's not about the business. They believed in me that I will figure things out, because they're too far, you know. They cannot.
And did you believe in yourself? Was there a point when you said, I better quit?
Yes, more than once. Not because I didn't believe in myself, but because I was tired, and I was like, okay, so what's the point? You know, it's kind of, I've been doing this, and it's not completely working how I want it to work, and I'm just tired, and let's just, you know, go do something else or find a job. And I had those moments, but I don't think they were really all the way. Like, otherwise I wouldn't be here, right? But I had those moments where I'm kind of started.
So what did you actually do in order to overcome those type of moments?
It's kind of funny. My low moments, like mentally, were not when the business was doing extremely bad. When the business is doing very bad, I don't think. I go and I do everything myself. I was like, I'm trying to save costs. I'm working as hard as I can. I had a period when it's like for 6 months, I couldn't afford any admin personnel. So I was doing everything. I was here from 7 in the morning till 10 in the evening, pretty much 7 days a week. And I didn't even think. At that moment, I was like, okay, now I need to focus. I need to get my shit together. I need to get us back to where we're supposed to be. And that was okay. My moment going down was more after that was over. And the business is now already okay. And I was like, okay, so what now? I'm tired. I've been working so hard. So it's more when I have those moments to think, but it's not a moment of growth, and things are kind of just okay, that's when I get a little bit low. I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's not when we're doing very bad. When we're doing bad,
when you're doing bad, you're on a cruise control.
Exactly. I'm working now.
So if anybody with the same idea that would come to Beijing, what would you recommend them to, if you're not Culture Yard? Would you recommend them to start a online or offline Chinese school? Is this a good market? Is this something?
It's a tough market.
It's a tough market.
It's a tough market.
Because everybody says that China is number 2 language in the world to study right now. Do the numbers agree with that premise?
Yes and no. The majority of people who study Chinese, they study it before coming to China. That's one. And two, when you see the foreigners who live in China, like I saw statistics somewhere that more than 90% of foreigners speaking China speak zero Chinese. Not basic Chinese, zero Chinese. The majority of foreigners, in Shanghai we see it very strongly, they don't even start that process. So for me,
many foreigners don't, yeah.
So for me, I see my job as kind of educating people that it's a fun language to learn. Actually, the beginning is very, very easy. Kind of to get your basics of just having those basic conversations is an easy thing to do. It's not a scary thing to do. So that's how I see kind of my mission right now is. And online helps me with that, because I can make like videos where I explain a little bit some basic things. And because when you see even like memes about the Chinese language, you see videos about Chinese language, everybody's saying how difficult this language is. And there are difficult aspects of the language. The pronunciation is a bit tough, and the characters are difficult to learn.
The tonnage
Yeah,
is the toughest.
The tones are difficult, but you don't have to speak with the correct tones to start having the basic conversation. You don't have to. You need to if you want to be amazing. But I know a lot of people who jump into it and they don't speak with the right tones at the beginning. And as an educator, maybe it's the wrong thing to say. But I'd rather that you're not afraid. You start. You know, you learn the basic words, the basic sentences, and you just go and you speak, and you understand why tones are important later, and then you come and you fix it. But you know, just get started, because the grammar is very, very simple in Chinese, and that's something that I see is like my mission in a way. It's kind of getting all these people who are afraid to even start, who think that Chinese is difficult. You know, just get started, learn those basics. Because the second you start speaking, you're like, hey, this is amazing, I'm speaking Chinese.
It's true. It's like, Mom, look at me.
Exactly.
Hear me say, 曾经志.
Exactly.
What is Beijing for you?
Home, I think.
What is home?
Home is, you know, where my roots are. You know, my friends, my partner, kind of my connections, my familiar places. You know, my kind of, you know, my favorite coffee shops or my favorite like music venues. So like all of it is here right now.
Is Beijing a hutong or is Beijing Guomao?
Everything. It's like I personally love the hutongs. This is kind of my base, but I go out of this base. You know, I go to all parts of the city. But I like coming here in the evening and having this kind of village atmosphere and knowing my neighbors and going to my little kind of hutong restaurants.